Okay, so thank you, Toby, for joining me today. Let's get started by taking me back to when you were younger. What is your first memory of acting or anything sort of like that?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually don't get asked that a lot. I have very vague memories of like I believe kindergarten or something doing I would believe Red Riding Hood, and I believe I was the hunter or something. I think that's my earliest memory of it, but that's so far back. Yeah,
Mm.
there's a big gap somewhere there where I tried it and then all sort of other stuff.
Yeah, what? So at the beginning, you were just trying loads of things, and that first time, it wasn't like, oh, I know I'm going to do this acting. It's more, that was just a school thing.
Yeah, no, God. I think back in kindergarten, I've been told a lot by my mom. I was just I was good at advocating and being outspoken, like a lot of initiative, apparently. And I think that was just mostly it back then. Like I was very engaged in trying a lot of stuff and yeah, seeing how it went and very much throw things at the wall, seeing what sticks.
Yeah. And do you remember? So, when would be the first time you were doing acting? You're like, oh, I really, really enjoy this. Like, I would like to sort of pursue this.
Well, as said, there's a big gap there. We skip very much far ahead. I must have been, yeah, 17, and I started at this school, very Danish concept, called a high school, which is basically a remote boarding school situation, but not with all the poshness
Yeah.
undertone. Uh, yeah, it's a boarding school where you don't really have a curriculum that's sorted around your basic English, math subjects. It's more, yeah, hobby activities and creative subjects,
Mm.
everything from philosophy to music to theater. And I'd always been a big fan of movies and, yeah, a huge fan of movies. And I had the chance to pick up a theater subject and thought, okay, let's give it a shot. And then I tried that, and I very much enjoyed it. We did a parody, like maybe a bit satirical take on the whole Troy situation with the Trojan horse and
Yeah,
everything,
yeah.
where I played Paris, the guy who I think, yeah, he dates the Spartan daughter queen something. God,
Okay.
it's been so long. But yeah, we did a very silly take of that where I played that guy as a total like surfer dude douchebag, and and I just found that large energy or all over the top, not taking it seriously at all. I found that very endearing and very fun to engage in. So yeah, that's where it struck gold with me, where I'm like, okay, I actually very much enjoy this as well, other than just appreciating it.
And were you nervous? Because I imagine, for me, I did a bit of drama in school. Like we had things like
Yeah.
plays that we had to perform, and I just felt like that was always super nerve wracking for me. I can never fully relax. Did you find that you were nervous, or were you like just found it comforting in a way?
It's funny when I was at the school because we every time we finished a theater subject we showed off what we made to just the other students. Back then I don't remember it as that nerve-wracking. I actually was often very surprised at how comforting I found it. It's actually been mostly after doing it in the yeah away from the school around yeah just around where I live
Mm.
where I really found how nervous I could be actually, where I had all the jitters and like doing breathing exercises every time I had to get on stage. It took very much a long while. Yeah.
Why do you think you were comfortable back then with being at
Yeah.
school and doing it compared to perhaps like later on when you would
Yeah,
act then and be more nervous then?
for sure, for sure.
Why do you think
I think
why
it
do you
was,
think that?
I think it was because at the school I knew everyone who was coming to see it, and they had a lot of people had kind of known about the process and what was going to be shown, and and we were all at varying degrees. Like this was not a paying audience or anything. This was a sort of anyone who took the subject could do it. So,
Yeah.
you know, I never felt I had to do like this remarkable performance because I knew that there were other people around me who were, were just starting as well. So there was no big expectation or someone walking out of there being like, well, why did I spend my time doing this? Because they had to be there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can see how that'd be a lot more chilled out, to be fair. That was nice.
For
So
sure.
you, after you left, is it called after school? Is that what it's called?
High school.
High school.
It
Okay.
is
So
directly translated. It is literally high school, but it is not at all high school.
okay, okay. So you leave there, and you've sort of found this new thing that you really
Yeah.
enjoy doing. Did you decide then that once you left, you were like, oh, this is something I want to pursue now, or was it still you were sort of making up your mind?
Yeah, for sure. No, straight after that, I knew, okay, I wanted to keep this going. The first thing I did was, because after I was done at the high school, I was there, at 17, I wanted to start high school because instead of going from straight to primary school, straight from primary school to high school, I had done the high school thing. So I knew I had to do high school. And then there was an offer in the city right next to where the high school was, Aarhus, that had a gymnasium high school package that was combined with doing an acting course on the side, where there was a drama school connected to it. So every Friday after the first few classes, we'd spend the rest of the day doing theater.
And what sort of theatre stuff would you do? Because to be honest, I don't know much about that world. Like, would you do sort of
Yeah.
improv or yeah, like
Yeah.
how do they teach someone to become an actor in a way? Like, what sort of things would they do?
What I learned both at the high school and doing like acting lessons afterwards is like a very good icebreaker in terms of like getting your students to be more comfortable with each other is doing improv acting. It's so much fun and it's so silly and no one really feels like they again have to do like a remarkable performance. Everyone's just riffing and having tons of fun. In Denmark we have another word for it called theater sport,
Mm.
which sounds all serious or something, but it's not at all. It's just different exercises that set you in some improv comedy situations. Everything from everyone sitting in the audience and then two people on the stage, and all of a sudden someone from the audience has to say freeze, and then a person from the audience replaces that person in the scenario and then all of a sudden have to pick up where the other person left off but with their own intuition. And I have like there are so many inside jokes that are still ongoing from that period with all the friends that I made there, where we've just had one skit that just rings through forever, and it will make no sense, and it's not worth explaining to anyone because it's so specific.
Yeah, because I've always been quite curious and fascinated by like that drama world. I remember first year of
Yeah,
university, I had this friend and he was in the play, like a university play, and I went and watched him. And after that point, I was like, oh, I really
yeah,
want to know if I could do that. So I've still kind of had this in the back of my mind, like I'd love to at some point be in a play or something like that, just to see
yeah.
if I could do it. What do you think, looking back at then when you did all the drama school and the improv? Do you have any
Yeah.
like fond memories from then that stick out to you?
Go- Gosh, so many. Uh, what usually sticks out to me a lot is also a thing we do a lot in Denmark is we do something called theater concerts, which is a combination of doing like a musical concert with a live band, where at the same time there's a narrative, non-verbal narrative, going on the stage at the same time. And a lot of the drama schools I've gone to, or just the schools I've gone to, have had each their own take on doing a theater concert. I've done one where I was a dancer instead of an actor, where we did all Beatles songs, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It taught me that I could not at all dance, and it was. it was such a straining experience because one of my close friends at the time was chosen to be the choreographer for the dancing, and and no joke, it very nearly ruined our friendship that I because I had two left feet. Like I'm so horribly bad at dancing, and she had to take extra time off just to focus on me, making sure to do it. And God, we snapped at each other so often. Very nearly ruin our friendship. And of course, it's fun to look back at, but God, it was a stressful time back then. But for sure, like doing this whole big ensemble thing where my friends are doing music, some of my friends are doing dancing, some of them are acting with me. Like doing that whole package together, really, those are the memories I very much look back to fondly. And thanks to that, there are some songs that we've, performed that'll just never leave my head. God,
Hmm. Are
for
you
better
so?
or for worse.
Are you better at dancing now? Because I'm terrible at dancing. Like I have absolutely no rhythm whatsoever, and even I don't know if it's a
Yeah.
thing, but even when there's a beat in a song, you know how like I feel like humans are built so that they can clap to a beat. It's like it's
Yeah.
but for I just cannot do it. My girlfriend will go to something, and
Yeah.
they'll have a beat, and I'm just clapping, and she's like, "You're not doing it at all in time." So I don't know if there's a
Yeah.
thing there, but um,
I'm very much the same way. Whenever I go to concerts and they do the clappy bit, I'm not listening to the music. I'm looking at the persons in front of me and going like, okay, now.
yeah, literally. I don't know
I'm
what
the
that
same
is.
way.
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it feels like it should be simple, but it's actually not.
Apparently not. It's underrated perhaps. But in terms of dancing, no, not at all. I've what I learned from that period is that the more choreographed and precise the dancing is, the worse I'm at it. If you give me a couple shots and put me out on the floor, I think I'll look decent dancing. But as soon as you tell me exactly what to do, I will forget how my entire body functions. Like my motor functions disappear as soon as I'm told to do things in exact way.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
I'm very similar.
so
Like even I've been doing driving lessons recently, and at the
yeah,
beginning, there was like so many like sequence of instructions to do. I was like, I just cannot
yeah.
follow what's going on there. This is too much. But yeah, so how long, out of curiosity, were you at that drama school for, like where it was kind of mixed with high school?
Oh well, that's a sad story. I ended up dropping out like half a year later ish, but
Mhm.
because I was having so much trouble focusing on school back then with my then I undiagnosed ADHD. So yeah, it didn't last that long, but I then instead did another drama school, which laid some towns over, where it was a lot of similar stuff. Like we had different instructors coming in, which had each their own specials.
Mhm.
Um, so I did like drama school here and there throughout 2 years ish. Like I'd say around 2021 to 2023.
Mhm. And do you think at all ADHD helps you in acting? But like, because I feel like with ADHD, a lot of people talk about struggling focusing with academic work, but then acting's quite like involved, isn't it? You're sort of like in the moment. It's a lot
Mm,
more like with your body, and it's very different to academic work. Do you
yeah.
think that it that's why you kind of got into it? It was like it played on your skills, perhaps.
Well, the funny thing with the ADHD thing is like, yeah, it has very much two sides to it. Because yeah, concentration is a lot of trouble, and like you can feel very scatterbrained. But then there's also this incredible ability to hyperfixate on something, and I've found that helped a lot, and especially in learning lines and being in the moment, and definitely in improv acting. Especially being scatterbrained and having so much thoughts come through and intrusive thoughts that you have to fight off all the time. Improv acting is actually very much like a relief because it's a setting where you're told, all those things you don't let out because they're weird as hell. Just pop off now. This is your chance to just let it all out. I've enjoyed that a lot. So yeah, no, it's definitely a gift and a curse. But I found in acting, it definitely, for my sake, has leaned more towards the gift side.
You're making me really want to try improv acting, or like just at
Yeah,
least one time. I don't think I've ever done it before.
yeah,
I've seen it in like shows like The Office and stuff. You know, like Michael's like into improv and stuff. But I
yeah,
just I really have to give it a go. I feel like it's
yeah,
yeah something that I just have to like tick off my bucket list at least one time trying out. Because I imagine it's quite
yeah,
like freeing as well. Because the fact that you could just anything that comes to your mind, you can kind of just like do. I don't know if I would get nervous performing in front of other people because I feel like
yeah.
the thing that I remember about drama at school, maybe it's because I was like sort of an anxious. Oh, sorry, okay, cool. Maybe it's because I was like an anxious teenager sort of thing. But you
Yeah.
know, I just remember like being in front of people, feeling like people were watching me on stage. That was like very anxiety inducing at the school. So
Yeah.
maybe I don't know if things would change now. We'll see. I'll definitely give it a go next time if I get a
Yeah,
chance to do improv.
for sure. I mean, I'd in general just recommend it as a team building exercise. You know, as I said, with the whole like most drama schools like put it at the beginning as like a sort of an icebreaker. And I feel it definitely translates so well. Maybe in some situations where there's a lot of HR and there's a very fine line for what is appropriate, inappropriate, because it very much leans on what your personal sense of humor is. And
Mm.
and if you go into a space where you don't think it'll be accepted, it can definitely create an awkward setting. But otherwise, I think a lot of places should apply it both in younger ages, but I feel like also adults could have such a good time using it as a team building exercise because you very much find what people have your what people in the group have your same sense of humor, and you find very quickly you end up like picking them and being like, you can be my friend because you actually get how horrible my sense of humor is.
Yeah, you know what? I actually feel like that would be fun as a team building one because at the moment,
Yeah.
every job I've been to, their go-to team exercise thing is, oh, tell us your name and then one interesting thing about you or like something like that. And it's
Yeah.
just that is like for me the most annoying team building thing ever because
Yeah.
you'll go around every person in the room and say that, and I've just always every time it comes up, I just cringe. I don't know why. I'm like this just feels so forced.
It feels very menial, and you're like you've just met these people, so like the facade is so like whatever proper front you have to put on is not gonna disappear because you're out, you know, quizzing together or something like that.
Yeah. Like if I tell one interesting thing, that's not going to change any of the bond with these people, is it? Like,
Not at all. But I think the pressure on like improv acting, like the make or break, like, oh shit, I have to use the very first thing that comes to my brain. You're forced to be like the most authentic version of yourself. Like I'd even claim more authentic than most people are like with some of their acquaintances or friends because you're
yeah,
so put on the spot and just forced to be the very like bare bones, no filtering your thoughts version of yourself.
yeah, that's so fascinating. I can completely see that. Completely see that. So, okay, so now, like, after you've sort of done all the different drama schools,
Yeah,
you've left now?
yeah.
What sort of, do you remember your first sort of project you did once you left?
Oh God, yeah. That's a very good question because it's been very much all over the place. I think the first project I really struck gold with, if I'm remembering correctly, there might be something that's being lost somewhere in there. But the first project I really grabbed at was we have this again Danish concepts, God, called Revue, which is basically a satirical sketch comedy. Like it's essentially Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
Where here in Aarhus, where I live, there's a week called Party Week, where a lot of events are around in the city and a lot of festivities. But there
Mm.
was the Party Week Revue at this time that was auditioning for the first time, taking people who were not part of the usual ensemble. And yeah, I ended up getting the part for it. And God, that was a lot of fun, but also very very challenging because in improv comedy we were all the same age and had the same sense of humor. Because I was also in the writers' room during the revue. Um,
Mm,
so I found it very natural to pitch in that yeah, okay, it'd just be like improv comedy. You just fire anything off. But then I found because there was a big generational gap between me and the other actors that I found out, gosh, it is not my usual sense of humor. This and the paying audience for revue are not people from Gen Z either at
mm,
all. So I found very much that I had to like. It was like learning a new language all of a sudden.
yeah.
Like
So what
it
did
was
you do at the beginning?
so.
Did you take
so
a seat back and just listen to what they were sort of their humor was, or try to learn? Like what was the process there?
I definitely had a say that got through sometimes, but I also very quickly learned because I'd had to gauge their reactions. Like if they found it funny, uh, I learned that okay, if they don't find it funny, and they are more the age of the paying audience, then I probably need to listen to their sense of humor to actually give people what they're paying for.
Yeah.
So there were some skits where I definitely felt like yeah I contributed a good bit, but otherwise it was definitely a lot of following the script. But then the magic sort of came in. I had, for example, one sketch was a monologue that I did, which was all about how to be a proper person from Aarhus, how to like fit in to that culture, which
Yeah.
was so ironic because I'm not from here. So I had to pretend to be this expert on it. Uh, and but it was a lot of fun because I had to follow the script, but the director said, you know, follow these two guidelines of how to play, but the rest of it, that's your intuition. Because when you're doing comedy and especially sketch comedy, and you're getting hired to do it, there's a lot of saying, yeah, now you do your thing. Like you
What, so
have to
more
pitch it.
improv sort of thing?
Well, yeah, like translating and formulating the text into how you like how you experience it, how you think it is most funny. How does the
Mm.
comedy of the situation translate into a physical language?
Yeah. And how did it go down? Like, was it received well?
Yeah, definitely. I got a lot of compliments on the monologue and also the other things that were in, and yeah, it was generally very well received. We had 12 showings in like the span of 2 weeks. So it was very hardcore, very intense. It been the most like theater I'd done consecutively because anytime I'd done it in the past, it had been like 2 or 3 times in total. So this was a whole grind in comparison to that. And I definitely learned a lot about doing it that way, but it was definitely very well received. But it was also a lot of one thing I learned that was very interesting about doing a show 12 times, 12 times consecutively
Yeah.
is that you quickly learn having to adapt to doing mistakes or if you don't remember your line verbatim, how do you all of a sudden get the same gist of it when you don't have the wording right? Uh, and that just it led to a lot of fun situations. Like the, it doesn't sound very professional, but there were some mistakes that happened uh, on stage. There was one time where an actress who was playing my mother in the scene, I was playing a little boy, accidentally instead of saying your grandmother in the scene, she said your mother, as if she was speaking about herself in third person. And I remember I bursted out laughing on stage, completely broke off, and you go away from that being like, oh fuck, I couldn't. I shouldn't have done that. Am I allowed to do that? And then I heard from these experienced actors, no, it adds to it. People love that.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, because I think there is this. Um, I mean, even on the podcast, there's some times where I will,
Yeah.
because you'll have a conversation with someone, but I'm very like all over the place as well, like a bit ADHD. So
Yeah.
I will oftentimes having a conversation with someone, and then kind of forgot what we were talking about. Like just my mind will go completely blank, and then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to improvise completely here. What goes next? I'm like just randomly think of something on the spot, sort of thing. But you get better at
Yeah.
it. Like, towards the beginning of doing the podcast, like when that would happen, I'd be like,
Yeah,
oh no, I'm completely lost. But now it's like just
for
instantly, it's like
sure.
my mind goes on to like, okay, what sort of next sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
A lot of friends, a lot of my friends will attest to that. I a lot of the times just straight up ask, "Wait, what was the through line of this conversation?" Like after a whole ass sidetrack, I go, "So what was the actual subject?"
yeah,
And realizing what we've been talking about for the last hour has not been at all related to like the primary subject at all.
that is fully why the podcast is called Off the Tangent. Is because it's just
Yeah,
always turns into a lot of different tangents of different things.
yeah,
Okay, so like another thing I'm quite curious about, which I thought about a lot of years, and I've never had a chance to ask someone that does acting, but I'm going to ask you in my test dummy with this.
yeah,
So when I was younger, I used to think about different actors, like let's say like Leonardo DiCaprio, or someone that's been in a lot of different films or different
yeah,
plays or doing different roles.
yeah.
Um, I would imagine that surely playing a character, you would you get in this role, you'll pick up a lot of the mannerisms that are this character or the behaviors, um, or the mindset perhaps. Does that
Hmm.
ever seep through into the way you act in real life? So let's say you're playing a character like this time you talked about this comedy, for example, where you might have done it like
Yeah,
12 times.
yeah.
Would then you know just normal day to day life, would it ever accidentally or some of that character seep through, or is that just it's just once you leave the play it switches off?
You know, that's such a fascinating question, and like, no, but it also actually it's kind of opposite. I've experienced because doing a lot of like more dramatic performances and serious performance is I've learned a lot because a lot of them have such serious subject matters or delve into some specific area of social commentary that it's actually made me more aware to not do these things. Like if there's certain habits that are so nitpicky that like it's something you've never really thought of as a thing before. Like I remember there was one time that there was this showing we did where it was a play about a couple who were stuck in a moving van and throughout the play have a big old marital spat essentially.
Yeah.
And there was this line that I had a couple times throughout the play where I would say, "Look on the bright side," and
Mm.
I used to a lot of times say, "Yeah, I'm an optimist. I really like looking on the bright side," and had told people a couple times, I'm sure, to look on the bright side. But doing that character and hearing the director, because the director he wrote it in because he thought it was so fucking annoying. Uh, he had written it because he thought it was such a belittling, like, oh, if you're depressed, go take a walk, sort of thing to say.
Mm.
Um, that it was supposed to not endear you to the character, but oppositely make you level the playing field a bit. Okay, this is his like that is the con to his side of the marital spat, and afterwards, I've noticed a couple times like the words being on the tip of my tongue, like just off the top of my head in a conversation, be like, oh yeah, look on the bright side, but then it getting stuck there because I'm like, wait, it does sound fucking annoying, doesn't it?
That's so fascinating
So-
because as an idea in itself, I think you know telling people, oh, like look on the bright side, like being optimistic, it seems like a good thing, but then
yeah,
actually, you're right. I think it's almost like it's invalidating someone's feelings. Like if someone's so
exactly,
stressed
yeah,
out or like feeling really bad about something, it's like you're
yeah.
telling them that their feelings like are almost wrong. Like just just be positive about this. Like you shouldn't be feeling like that.
Yeah, like as if okay, cause I'm so hot and bothered by this, cause I want to be bothered.
Yeah. But that's interesting as well that you sort of like learn from the plays or acting.
For
Like,
sure.
is that quite common? You'd say that a lot of different shows, when you get into a role or you're part of a different type of play, that you oftentimes take something away from it.
For sure, less the comedy ones like that. That's mostly a learning experience in terms of like just doing acting and different ways to do comedy. But in terms of a lot of the dramatic plays, it's been a very consistent thing that because for me, one of the most endearing parts of doing acting is it's a very it requires empathy and like not in the TikToky oh I'm an empath kind of way blah 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 but but in the sort of like it requires you to to sympathize with the character you're playing because I've played characters as well that I didn't like but to do to do an authentic and do a good performance you kind of have to get in their headspace but yeah doing a character and trying to like be true to the character and doing a good performance is very it's very it requires being able to sympathize with the character because if you're despising the character you're playing you won't be able to play them authentically then you're gonna make a caricature of them then you're gonna think of whoever you know who is this horrible person or the horrible has these horrible traits and you're gonna make this big showing of them because you're thinking of a portrait of a person you know where I find for it to actually be effective and a good experience for the audience, you have to get in and think about how the character feels. Like, and it can be so like pretentious as being like, what is their trauma? Like, what could cause this horrible derailing of what the character perceived to be appropriate behavior, and doing that, you start to actually, I found it's made me less hateful towards these people. Like, sure, I'm not gonna like them because oh, now I get it, so I'm actually on your side. Not at all that, but it still makes me able to think, okay, they are this way because of some misunderstanding in their head. Like these faults in them aren't manifested because they just have a ton of ill will for the world. They obviously just don't get the problem in what they're doing, and it's made it much more relaxing to be alive. I know that sounds like such a large mental gymnastics hop, but it's made it so much relaxing not going around and like scowling at people doing these things being like, yeah, you're just such a dick. And instead,
I
instead
completely relate to what you're saying because
yeah.
you know, like I feel like growing up, I was quite a judgmental person, and I didn't like that. I didn't like being judgmental, like because you're angry in your own head in a way. You're like looking at other people,
Yeah,
and just
for
feeling
sure.
angry for no reason really. And then you know what I like, what a reason probably going back to why I started the podcast, but even it goes back way longer than that. Is when I went to university, you start talking to so many different people from so many different backgrounds, and when you
Yeah.
learn about them and hear their stories and why they think the way they do, it really makes sense why they do the things they do and why they have these beliefs and all these sort of how the upbringing then affects later on in life, and you sort of see how a person is made up, and it makes you less judgmental of others because it's like, oh, I can now I get why they might be doing these things that seem harsh or can
Yeah.
be portrayed in a bad way, but actually there's a kind of cause for it. So I can completely
Yeah.
understand what you're saying. So would that be sort of how you prepare for roles? Is sort of trying to understand the motivations of a character or why the character does what their past might have been, sort of thing. How do you let's say you've entered a new role or you're in a new play or something like that. How would you prepare for that role?
Um, I think to focus a bit on the other side of the coin, I've one thing that's been a big, big learning experience into how to delve into a character is experiencing characters who I like find myself to almost be identical with. Like I've done plays or short films or stuff like that where where I've read the script, and if I knew the director or writer beforehand, I'd be like, "Did you base this off me?" And they're always like, "No." but finding the core differences, actually trying to look at the character and be like, okay, but I'm doing myself a disservice if I'm just showing up on set or on stage and being like, yeah, okay, I'm just gonna be saying these things as if they're my thought. That's a huge disservice to the experience of acting, I feel like. So it's been trying to find, okay, what are the core differences in like if I really delve into the meaning behind the words, because like sure, I can say I would have said this in some situation, but if I look at the script, I'm saying trying to see, okay, this is the situation they're in, this is the other scenes they've been in, this is the relationships they have to the other characters in the scenes. What, how do these things correlate to the exact line being said and make up the exact nature of why the character is saying it? And sure, it might end up aligning to the same reasons I would have said it, but a lot of the other times it's also learning, okay, they're actually saying it in a completely different way and that I'm saying it, and that'll change like the delivery of the line, because I could, if I deliver it straight, it'll sound maybe very casual, but then you lose a lot of the subtext. But going in and looking at the context, then I learned to put it in a way that actually serves the scene more than it just serves my more shallow understanding of what's being said.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And like, you know, for me, I think I don't really understand how a script works that well, because how detailed would a script be? Because in my mind, I kind of just imagined it would have the, you know, the speech of what was going on in the scene, and perhaps like it just says, "Oh, now we're on a boat." And it's like a storm or something. Like how does it tell you about the characters and their motivations, or is that something you might get from a director who has a vision of what the play might be? Like where does all this sort of background information come from?
That entirely depends on the writer. I found the most descriptive scripts, like the ones that go into menial details or like the thoughts behind an action, is usually when it's a writer director, like the director that also has written the script. In those cases, they're very exact about it because they know they'll get the chance to elaborate it on it. Where I found if it's someone else's script and a director doing it, it actually gets more, which saying it now seems a bit ironic, but yeah, it's a bit more vague because there's a sort of maybe expectance to that fact that the director is making an interpretation of the script. Like they want to put their own flavor on it, and like even if the script is very descriptive, then then the director can also just say, yeah, I don't agree with the exact description in the script, I'm gonna try doing this angle instead. So it just serves the making of it a lot more to be more vague if it's not the same person doing it.
And would you have ever been sort of like told off on set for not following the script exactly, or how would it be?
Yeah. Um, I think I've not been told off because there's again, it very much depends on the person who's making it in this case, where you sometimes you go into a set or yeah a theater and you're told this is we're doing a serious play. I want what's written to be adapted straightly, like straight to the scene, and then you know as an actor, it is part of your like professionalism to be like, okay, then I don't mess with that. Then I don't mess with that.
Yeah.
But if it's more comedic, or in the case of the couple in the moving van play, we're encouraged to have a lot of like adapting it. Usually, what a director will do, and that especially happened on the moving van set, is that we were told a lot. First time we played through, don't worry about my direction. Just try and play it through how you imagine it, and then afterwards, the director will go, okay, I imagine it this way, but since you did it this way, I actually like that, put that in the scene, or you did it that way, that's not how I imagine it, and I think it loses some flavor because you're doing it that way. Do it my way instead.
Yeah, okay, I can see like it's almost like them picking and choosing which bits. They give you the creative freedom, but then it's like they see
Yeah.
which bits they do and don't like, and then trying to incorporate that into the final product.
Yeah, because they know better than anyone else at the place what they're trying to like formulate. What is the experience they want to be have had from watching it?
Yeah, that makes sense. So thinking about all the different projects you've done, what is your
Yeah.
favorite? What have you worked on that you're like that was really enjoyed that, like, the outcome was what you wanted it to be?
Yeah.
Can you think of one that comes to
Uh,
mind?
yeah. Um, Gosh, that's a very good question. Um, there's been so many good ones. Yeah. If I had to say, doing it professionally, I'd
Mm,
say Moving Van play, because I found that to be such an interesting portrayal of like two people who haven't done anything evil but only wronged each other, and having to sympathize with two people at once, and then coming up out of the other side and like I talked with the audience and hearing them say, "Oh, I agreed with this, your character," or "I thought your character was such a horrible d bag." You're like, "Oh, I can't believe you did that." So professionally, definitely that. But
mm.
in terms of like school, at the high school, we did a whodunit, a murder mystery,
Okay, yeah.
which is so much fun, so much fun. Uh, that I had, but both a great time doing, but a very unfortunate time doing, because we were supposed to do a lot of improv acting in character, because the audience, the other people at the school, they were the detectives trying to solve the murder, so they had to
Okay.
go around interviewing the characters after the murders happened, which sounds like so much fun if you weren't the character that's being murdered, which I was. And it was such a frustrating thing, and I'll tell you what especially made it frustrating, because because my character was the one that was murdered, right? And
Mm,
the whole setting was an insane asylum where I was coming in as the new doctor with modern medicine and like new psychology, and trying to like actually help the people there, and not just putting them in the crazy box. And we're doing it at Christmas, where we're totally ripping off of Sherlock Holmes, but I'm wearing a Santa suit, and um, and at one point, one of the patients totally freaks out, and like being like, "You're not Santa," and I'm at last I have to like take off the big belt, take out the pillow that's hiding under my shirt, and like, "No, you're right, I'm not Santa," but it turns out I'd been stabbed, and the and the strain the belt had put on had stopped the bleeding. So as soon as I took the belt off, I fall over at place, and I found that so much fun, having to like all of a sudden fall over. And apparently I was very good at it. A lot of gave me a lot of compliments, like, "Oh my god, doesn't that hurt?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it hurts a lot, but it's so much fun. It's dedication." But then on the day we're actually doing it, when I fall over, the first thing that hits the floor is my jaw.
oh
So
no.
I very nearly like dislocated.
Oh,
Thankfully, I didn't, but it hurt like a bastard. And the scene goes on for another minute, uh, where I just am hurting so much. And that would be, I'd be able to go off and put an ice pack on it if it ended there.
yeah.
Unfortunately, while we chose to have a morgue at the place, a morgue scene
Yeah.
where I am playing a dead body. So while everyone is going around interviewing, I have to stay laying there playing a dead body while my jaw was on fire. It hurt
Wow.
so much, but it's such a great story, and it's so fun. It was so much fun to tell about. Like, that's definitely one of my favorite experiences of like the trials and tribulations of doing acting.
That's so funny because, like, your friends watching were like, "Oh, that was so realistic," and you're like there in actual pain. You've actually on your jaw.
Yeah, because I couldn't tell anyone for so long. So like after like I don't know 2 hours or something, and we're like, okay, they guessed who was the murderer. We're finally done, and then everyone was like you said, go up, say that looked great. I'm like, that was the most method I'd ever done in my life.
Wow, that's so brilliant. That sounds really
Yeah,
fun, to be honest, though. That does sound good.
for
And
sure.
like, what? So you were dead, so people couldn't come and talk to you and ask. Like, you were saying that, oh, it was a murder mystery, so the audience could interview or ask people,
Yeah.
like, oh, what was your role? Like, what were you doing and stuff. So people couldn't ask you, I'm guessing, because you were dead. Yeah. Okay. So you could just relax then, or
N- uh, no, cause the morgue table, like there was no cushioning on it or anything. So like I was so uncomfortable for this whole time.
oh,
My joints were aching because they had no soft surface to be put up against, and at the same time, I had no comfortable place to rest this either. So I was kind of just hovering it up, but the strain also just kind of made the pain worse.
oh God. Wow. That's very much getting into. I appreciate. I like that you kept it going though. You didn't like. You just kept in character. You kept it doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So like, I'm gonna talk. Let's talk about something completely different now. I want to get more into like
Yeah,
you and
yeah,
like the other interesting aspects of the thing I want to talk about. So, uh, you're in a open relationship, and that was like the original reason that we started talking about. Got in contact and
yeah.
we'll chat about. So, could you explain to people what an open relationship is for people that might not know?
Yeah, God, I'm such an interesting person to ask because I've just recently been learning there's like a lot of descriptive words for it. But in terms of my very over the surface look on it, for my sake, it is just that my having a relationship doesn't set boundaries for how my other relationships in life are required to be or required not to be.
Mhm. So that would be like people would describe it as like polyamory. Is that what we'd call it?
Yeah, open relationships are very different because polyamory is definitely more a description for when love is involved with several people,
Mm.
and in my case of an open relationship, there that is allowed, but it does not happen yet. So we are open to polyamory, but we're not right now practicing it.
So what would that look like in practicality? Would it be like you have so in like a traditional relationship might just be, you have like two people that are in a committed relationship to each other and they're saying we're not gonna
Yeah,
date anyone else, see anyone else, it's just them two.
yeah.
But in an open relationship, would you have like your sort of like main person that you're dating, but then you're also allowed to see other people? Like what would it look like to you?
Yeah, uh, if getting into the nitty gritty of things, one way it's called is it's called a hierarchical open relationship,
Mm.
uh, which sounds very clinical, but it is as it sounds like uh, my partner, my girlfriend, could also be called my primary,
Mm.
which I'm not sure I prefer calling her that, but you could call it that. But it essentially means that on a surface level, I'm supposed to prioritize her in a lot of situations. So, for example, if my girlfriend's gonna work all day, let's
Mm.
say, and in the meantime, I'd like to see another person I'm seeing. Uh, but I see the other person right around the time my girlfriend is getting off of work. And then we might communicate to each other. Do you have plans after work? Do
Mm.
you would you like company after work if you're going straight home? And in the case that, okay, she's going home, but she doesn't want to be home alone, then I am in practice like supposed to prioritize that. Uh, it's not as black and white as that in practice for me and my girlfriend, but
Mm.
that is one like over the surface way of looking at it.
And I'm so curious, like, how you first got into that because I feel like,
Yeah.
just being in society, naturally people follow what the mainstream thing would be. So, like, I'm
Yeah.
curious for you, like how did you decide that that's something you wanted to do?
See, that's a very interesting question, and and God, there's so many things that kind of led me down that path. Um, I didn't have the most positive outlook on open relationships initially, because the way I first like learned about it or like really got confronted with the possibility of being in it was after I had a partner cheat on me, and they said, "Oh, well, if we could stay together, but we could do it open, and that would fix things." And I didn't agree with that. You can't put a band-aid on a broken leg and say you're ready to run a marathon.
Yeah.
So so at first I was like, okay, this is just an excuse. People who can't control themselves, like it's a formality people use to excuse their needless, insatiable desires.
Yeah, yeah.
But then what happened was during my time in the drama school, I met one of my now best friends who was in an open relationship for most of the last couple of years, and I got to firsthand experience, you know, what it looked like in practice rather than just in theory, and I saw that a lot of the time they were saying it to each other. Yeah, I can't be bothered to really hook up with anyone else right now, or I can't really like. It wasn't at all like that insatiable thing that I thought it to be, um, and I just saw that it was a lot of trust and a lot of like looking at the other person and saying, yeah, you may go out and do whatever you do in your free time, but when you come home to our home,
Mm.
you'll always come home to me. Like at the end of the day, we have each other. Everything else is a separate thing, and therefore it doesn't really uh, degrade the meaning of our relationship. Uh, and that's definitely the outlook I adopted after that. On the whole thing, and I went through a couple monogamous relationships in the meanwhile because that
Mm.
was what suited with my partners throughout those. But then after uh, being in a couple of relationships that didn't work out, I took a step back and reassessed. Okay, what might I be able to do different so that it may be something that sticks better, or like
Mm.
what could make me more comfortable in a relationship. And then I started thinking about it, and throughout my dating life, I started like breaching the subject with whoever I was seeing at the time, being like, I think this could be a good idea. How do you think about it? And a lot of the time, it
It wouldn't go down
it
well. I
ended
can't.
it ended in the yeah the dating. We didn't see each other after that a lot of the time, like
Mm.
or or otherwise they'd start to hunger something serious, but they knew that the serious they wanted was not the same serious that I wanted.
Yeah.
Uh, so then I was like almost at the end of my rope, like being like, okay, I don't fuck polyamory, fuck open relationship. It's only ruining my chances. And and then I started I like the first date I went on with that mindset. The my date goes, "Oh, there's something you have to know. I only do polyamorous open relationships." I'm like,
What a coincidence. That's crazy.
finally, where you been? And that, fun fact, is my now girlfriend. So
What up?
it was something that was discussed from the very first date, and like as soon as we got into a relationship, we right off the bat knew, yeah, this is gonna be open.
That's so fascinating. And like, immediately what comes to mind is like, I just think, would there not be a lot of feelings of like maybe jealousy, or I feel that in a way it's like when I think about my relationship, I'm like, well, this is mine, this is my
Mm.
person. She probably feels the same
Yeah,
about me, where like, it's not
yeah.
like it's not like you own them, but it's like, it's like
Mm.
it's in a way it feels like, they're you've made an agreement that it's just you two. Was there,
Yeah.
going from like a monogamous relationships to then an open relationship, did you have those feelings of almost like a bit of maybe jealousy, or a bit of, I don't know how to describe it, like hurt that they would be seeing other people, or was it the fact that you talked
Yeah.
about it from the beginning? It was like, oh, it's okay.
No, no, I very much get that thought, and it was one that I had myself going into it, uh, and I've also, I've talked to a lot of people about it who said, if you're in an open relationship, then what do you even owe each other? Is it even a relationship if you don't have those boundaries? Isn't that what it's built on, then it's just knowing someone that you also love. And
Mm.
I understand that point of view. It's not one that I agree with. Um, what I very much learned about getting into a relationship, about being jealous and hurt, is in my prior monogamous relationships, the jealousy was a big thing from both my part and their part. And what I learned was that what it came down to was what breaching that trust actually meant. Because if you're if you're in a monogamous relationship and you go out and kiss someone else or hook up with someone else, then you are through that action, in some way accepting the possibility of the relationship ending after that. Like, you've completely breached the trust of your partner, and you know that they would hate that. So you know that there's a possibility for the relationship ending. So whenever I encountered some varying degrees of infidelity throughout my relationships with other people from their side, it'd always be like what it's emblematic of. It was emblematic of they would rather kiss this person or hook up with this person than be in the relationship. And
Yeah.
that felt very hurtful. Where getting into this relationship, I very quickly realized, no, the most jealous I ever get is that it is an afternoon or an evening where I don't get to see my girlfriend. Like
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
it's like this happens all the time in any degree of dating. There's going to be periods where you're like, oh, it's so difficult to see you right now, or I have time tomorrow. Do you have time tomorrow? No, I don't have time tomorrow, and you get frustrated over that.
Mm.
And that's really been the extent of it for me, is being like, oh, well, then I have to find other plans.
Yeah.
And, it's the banality of that has been very fun to realize, because I went into the relationship expecting for it to be like, uh, there being like a transitioning period for my state of like my views on things, kind of,
Yeah.
because I've been so used to being in monogamous relationships where jealousy was such a invasive, prudent thing. But here I just realized, well, from the simple matter of fact that we're not telling anything. There's no connotations of anything by going on a date or seeing anything. Then it became much more relaxing for me to have that be a part of it.
Mm. We talked a little bit earlier about, with people
Yeah.
how their past and their backgrounds affects them as a person now. Do you think that if your partners in the past hadn't cheated on you, that you would be in an open relationship now?
Yeah, I've had the exact same thought, and the answer is I don't know,
Mm.
but there's a very good chance of it, because I feel like at first me going out into the dating world saying this is the way I have to do it was like sort of a shield for me to say, okay, the only way to not be cheated on is to say, well, they can't. They are not. It is not a possibility within the relationship. And I thought at first, when I just started this open relationship, that was the extent of it, because I was like I said, with the transitioning period, I expected for me to at first just have to silence so many jealous and hurt
Mm.
thoughts. But so yeah, that was like a starting point, but getting into it, I realized the value of it in and of itself, like without the context of my own past. And I think that very much like put those, like, yeah, it was what encouraged me to get there, but it's not at all it doesn't really affect it now,
Mm.
being in it.
I think like it's really brave, to be honest, because I think like in society, I feel like we put a lot of labels and like constructs to keep things in boxes. But I think the human nature is to have like a large spectrum where people fall all different parts
Yeah.
of it, and I feel like relationships
Yeah, for
fall
sure.
into that too, where we
Yeah.
put this label that for a long time it should be a man with a woman in
Yeah.
in just them. But then
Mm.
I feel like naturally for a lot of people it would lie on a spectrum where that doesn't fit them. It doesn't fit like what
Mm.
they want and stuff. Have you found
Yeah.
that almost doing something like being in an open relationship, which is in a way different to a lot of the mainstream society, have you found
Yeah.
at all that there's ever been sort of like prejudice towards it? Like, is it something that you would openly tell like your family and discuss with family?
Uh, in terms of family, it depends on the member of my family. I've never explicitly acknowledged it in front of my dad, but I've explicitly acknowledged it several times in front of my mom. Like
Mm.
whenever I talk to her over the phone and like talk about my week or what I've done recently, I'll it's very funny to look at, but yeah, I'll tell her about dating new people in the same way that I told her about dating new people before I was in a relationship. Like
Yeah.
it'd be this like, oh, I met this person, they're very sweet, and oh, I hope it's gonna be a good, you know. Um, it felt oddly like it felt unnatural in how natural it felt, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, and in terms of the prejudice thing, uh, actually no, because I've not really experienced that much. The most prejudice that I've experienced has been like from yeah dating other people where they don't really they expect like a lot of people think people in open relationships to essentially be swingers. Like it's all about like yeah throwing yourself at a body there and or a body there, you know, just I'm the town bicycle, take a ride on me kind of vibe.
Yeah.
um where like sure, that's not what they explicitly said, but you know there was connotations of you know a looseness in it. And at
Mm.
first, when I like I use dating apps for example. At first, I wouldn't write it on my dating app profile. I've never wrote it on my Tinder, for example, because I've seen people on Tinder who have it written in their bio, and I remember thinking myself before I was in an open relationship, like, "Oh, you horny bastard, you're here to hook up," and then it very automatically translated to, "Okay, I don't want to be perceived that way," so I instead, you know, and this is a rule we have in the relationship that I would breach the subject on the first date,
Mm.
like after we've broken the ice and everything, because I want I have a need for my sense of character to be perceived before that piece of information gets out. But it's also been a learning relation or learning experience because in the way that I've kind of learned that if I go that route, then I might end up people like changing their mind once they learn the information, which hasn't happened during the first date. During the first date, it actually very rarely changes the atmosphere. But then a lot of the time, what happens is there's never a second date because
Yeah.
they reach out. I've had a thought about it. It's not what I thought I wanted.
Yeah, because I think like it's one of
Yeah.
those things that oftentimes you just wouldn't. I like for me personally, I thought about it when planning this podcast, you know, and
Yeah.
then when I did think about it, I started to think about a lot of the dynamics with it. But before that point, you know, it's
Yeah.
just something you hear about generally. I feel like in social media, like I've never really actually met someone that was in an open
Yeah.
relationship, but I hadn't really perhaps thought about it. So I would have had those
Mm.
sort of perhaps in a way some sort of like prejudice towards it because to me it's like you know as you said like people with you as you said you might think oh that horny bastard before like but that's not necessarily the truth is it and I
No, no.
think like that was one of the questions that I was going to ask you was you know about like sex and attachment because I think one
Yeah.
thing that I think sex is almost like deeply linked to intimacy in a way it's like um so that is in my mind, one thing about having sex with just one person is that you have that deep connection between sex and
Yeah.
intimacy and like love because they're
Yeah.
all like this like trifecta all unified. Do you find
Yeah.
that even though you have like a main girlfriend, if you have sex with other people, does it sort of disconnect that intimacy and sex like as an action?
Uh, yeah, the thing about that is that, like, you know, the view on sex in open relationship is as individual as everyone's views on sex, like, individually.
Mm,
Like, I, for example, I share your view, like the one that you just expressed. I completely agree with everything you said. But other people, in open relationships, whether it be just one of the parts or both parts, might view it as a wholly casual thing and that their love is, for example, kissing when they're not having sex. Like a lot of people in open relationships will be like, kissing kissing without the sex is only for emotional romantic intimacy,
Mm.
where my view on it, for my sake, is it hasn't really degraded the quality of it, because for me, for my own sake, in my open relationship, what I'm searching for when I go date other people is emotional intimacy, where I find, like, sort of in a reverse way of what you said, I find that linked to sexual intimacy, where like it's very much about being open and exposed, and like being able to get to know each other in a way where you put a lot of the boundaries down. Like I've like it's gonna sound a bit weird, but I am a very big fan of pillow talk. I think pillow
Yeah.
talk is such a fantastic way of getting to know people. Like one of the first times you've maybe seen the other person without their clothes on, and then laying there and just laying side by side talking to each other without any like anything explicit or sexual going on. You just, I find that a lot of boundaries and like walls we put up around ourselves get broken down, and we end up being, and that's both myself and the other part, but like it helps us be very authentic. And I think that's what like what sex can do for me. Like it's a gateway to being very, a gateway to knowing a person on a level uh, beyond the formal stuff.
Yeah, because it's like a almost like a very intimate moment, isn't it? Like a pillow
Mm.
talk is, yeah, it's like the connection of two people. It's like it's, as you said,
Yeah.
like all those walls come down. It's a nice place. So I'm very happy that you, like, I feel like found uh, the thing that works for you, because I think
Yeah.
obviously a lot of people will go through their whole life trying to find what works for them. So that's good that you found that.
Yeah.
We are coming towards the end, so I want to go
Yeah.
to you, like, look at, as a final sort of point, what are your
Mm.
future aspirations? Like, if you think about what your ideal future would look like in terms of, acting, like, where would you dream to be? I'm sure, like, with this podcast and other things I'm doing, like, I have an ideal, like, what I want from the future. Do you know what
Yeah.
yours would be?
Um, for me, it's very simple, I think, but also very unobtainable in some sort of way. But for my sake, I just love to be doing acting as a stable way of income. Like it's a very simple love what I do what I love principle of like just having the thing that makes me the most happy be the way that I uh, progress in life and stay on that track. And I like I for example very much love voice acting. That's one of my hobbies that I do on the side. I think that's very fun. That's one way I could imagine myself doing acting, but it's not the requirement. I think any sort of acting, as long as I get to do it as a way of living, is the only real requirement for me. But it's also, as I said, in a bit of way unobtainable. I've gotten the habit of saying this new saying that I have, which is that I'm an actor in the same way that someone who buys lotto,
Yeah,
lotto,
yeah, yeah.
lottery,
Lottery. Yeah, yeah.
lottery. I'm an actor in the same way that someone buys a lottery coupon is a millionaire. Like, like, sure, I can keep doing acting, but I haven't crossed the threshold until I'm doing it enough to cover my expenses.
Hmm. You know,
Wh-
I,
Which is
I,
my which is my general view. I want to understate. I'm not trying to say anyone out there that you're not an actor because you're not making money off of it. I'm just saying that's what my own aspirations reach towards.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like your definition of sort of like that would be making it for you, as if you could like sustainably do what you want to do and live a comfortable financial life. Yeah,
Exactly.
that makes perfect sense. All right, well, Toby, I thank you for joining me, mate. It's been a very interesting
Thank you for
conversation.
having.
Yeah, it's been so interesting to learn about acting and sort of your life and yeah, all the
Yeah.
work you do. So I have high hopes, and I hope that you make it financially with acting.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so have a good day, mate. Thank you a lot.
You too. Thank you.